Good morning, everyone. This morning, we're joined by Nicoletta Pireddu, professor in our Department of Italian and the inaugural director of our Georgetown Humanities Initiative. So Nicoletta, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this conversation. Let's jump right in. I'd like to begin by asking you about the Georgetown Humanities Initiative. You began serving as director this past January. Can you talk a little bit about the initiative? Tell us about some of its engagement and the accomplishments thus far, and how you're envisioning its future.
Thank you very much, President Di Gioia, for this conversation. First of all, it's an honor to have a chance to exchange with you about my work at Georgetown and especially about the Humanities Initiative. So let's say the Humanities Initiative, I like to call it a kind of institutional umbrella for collaborative interdisciplinary projects in the humanities across different departments and schools. It embraces innovative scholarship that can take various forms, from traditional humanistic methods to digital approaches, as well as arts and performance. The initiative also plans to engage more and more with the Washington, D.C. community and beyond by making humanities scholarship available to the general public, and also by involving professionals in the life of our university. Among other things, in line with the student-centered identity that we have as a research institution, the initiative intends to involve not only faculty members, but also undergraduate and graduate students in its research and outreach activities. And since I took over, I've been very pleased by the numerous collaborations I've had a chance to participate in. I just give you some examples. With the Medical Humanities Initiative, we have a newly approved minor in medical humanities that really situates medicine in its social, cultural, and historical context, and also brings together students from the main campus and the medical school, together with faculty from both units. So with Professor Krishnan and Marchalik, I applied for a grant from the Association of American Medical Colleges to enhance and evaluate our interdisciplinary teaching at the intersection of humanities and medicine. So this is a success story. At Georgetown Humanities, I have also co-sponsored several virtual lectures with other units on campus, like GU Press, the Department of Performing Arts, Global Initiatives, and just last week for Black History Month, together with the Department of Italian, of African American Studies, and also the African Studies program at the School of Foreign Service, we hosted the Ethiopian American writer Masa Mengiste, who wrote a novel, The Shadow King, about Italian colonization of Ethiopia. Coming up in April with the Environmental Initiative, we have a series of talks on environmental writing. We have the famous British writer Robert Macfarlane, and roundtables with scientific journalists and cultural critics. And here, the emphasis is precisely on the different modes of representation that we adopt in climate writing. I see this as the first step for a veritable environmental festival that we would like to host on campus, hopefully as soon as the campus reopens, once per year, bringing the city also to Georgetown. So developing additionally this public dimension that we want as an integral part of the mission of Georgetown Humanities. I also launched a Humanities Matter series, so series of professional development events featuring Georgetown faculty and students on podcasting, public writing, and digital humanities. And with the Colley Career Education Center, we are planning for this semester roundtables for students with alumni and employers to discuss the role of the humanities in the professional world. I have also been delighted to work with the American Council of Learned Societies for the Emerging Voices program. We are hosting a fantastic postdoctoral fellow, Dr. Ayten Tartish from Yale University, who's teaching for us this year. And we hope we'll be able to continue this collaboration for other postdocs with ACLS in the upcoming years. I have also added a Humanities Student Board to the Faculty Advisory Board of the Humanities Initiative, because students are a crucial component of this initiative. I would like to give them more agency, let's say so, helping them to shape the humanities their own way, to see what they need and what they would like to do with this opportunity. Because my purpose is really to somehow shape students not just as consumers of knowledge, but as owners, as producers of innovative knowledge and practices. I have also created a newsletter just to spread the word about what we are doing. And in addition to reports of events, we also have interviews with students and faculty who are involved in innovative projects and activities in the humanities. For the future, I would like to have more vertical collaborations across ranks. So not only Georgetown faculty, but for instance, visiting scholars and scholars in residence, invited speakers together with undergraduate and graduate students to give them more opportunity for research. It's crucial to give students research opportunities and also ways of showcasing what they do, having outcomes essentially. So public facing projects or conferences, publications, but also more connections with institutions in the greater Washington area, foundations, K-12 schools. Obviously, our location is unbeatable, so we have plenty of opportunities. I think it's crucial to establish these kinds of connections also with museums, theaters, international organizations, in addition, obviously, to humanities networks in the nation and overseas. There is one thing that I hope I'll be able to envision in the future also, considering the strong commitment that Georgetown is showing towards the humanities, your office, the college at large, the provost office. My hope is really that we will be able to turn this initiative into a veritable humanities center, as most peer institutions have. And why is it important? Because I see this initiative as the equivalent of what a science lab is, where people come together to do things together, to do new stuff, okay? And we need a space that intentionally enables us to share things, precisely to bring people together. And it's a way also of demystifying the cliche of the humanist who works alone, right? The cliche is that of the solitary researcher, either at his or her desk or computer or in an archive. But more and more, we see that the humanities, with their holistic approach, allow us to tackle and solve complex problems, you see. So instead of having compartmentalized knowledge, I think we need to create overarching systems that allow us to connect different domains. So in a nutshell, I think that with this approach, humanities initiatives and centers can really help us close this gap, and also, I would say, change the way the national conversation and the way in which we talk about education. You know, what is education good for? So I
Sure.
think there is great potential.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Now, you've just mentioned a whole range of events in recent months highlighting some of the ways in which art, the arts and literature, philosophy, history, other areas of the humanities can help us cope during times of crisis. And you've noted last year that more than ever during this moment, the world needs the humanities. Could you share a little bit more on this idea? What do the humanities provide for us in times of challenge and uncertainty?
Definitely. I mean, this is a crucial question, and we're going through such a terrible moment. In moments of uncertainty and crisis, I think we often feel unable to find answers, and perhaps we don't even ask the right questions. So during this time of disruption, of grief and loss, many we have seen have turned and constantly are turning to the humanities and to the arts for support, to make meaning. In my view, the humanities, precisely because of their comprehensive approach, play a crucial role in providing historical context, in promoting ethical decision-making, and in inspiring empathy. Why? Because they explore timeless questions about the human experience, essentially, in all its complexities. How do we cope with personal and collective tragedy? What does it mean to choose and be free? And how can we exercise this personal freedom of choice while being members of a community. We're facing this with COVID constantly on a daily basis. So essentially, in my view, drawing from observations and insights that have been handed down to us across centuries through literature, art, music, and other forms of human expression, we can contextualize and process these traumatic experiences. We can identify with the sufferings of others. And we can also find poignant examples of courage, of endurance, insights into what brings us together as a species. In moments of crisis, we feel also an acute need for alternatives, right? We want to change, we want to see other ways of doing things. The humanities nourish imagination as an opportunity and as a critical tool for discovery and for change. They are transformative. This is what I keep telling my students. By reading about other stories of change, we realize that we do have the capacity to change how we live on a daily basis, but also our way of thinking about the world. I also think that text and artworks promote a growth in values of justice because they foster curiosity, creativity, and critique. They generate ideas that, in my view, bridge differences without erasing them. And so in a conjuncture like ours, which more broadly, also beyond COVID, has deeply, let's say, destabilized the notion and the function of truth in fundamental domains of our lives, beyond the medical domain, as I said, the political domain, the legal, the social, the ethical sphere, the humanities can help us even use dissent constructively. They allow us to overcome polarizations by recognizing the productive value of disagreement and differences. So in other words, I see the humanities as such a powerful tool because they do not only help us sort, how can I say, what is reliable knowledge and what is opinion or misinformation or fanatic ideologies, but also they show us grounds to rebuild communities. And for me, this is crucial. Communities of learners, of thinkers, of citizens, communities of trust. They foster dialogue and ways of understanding each other because we understand each other when we share our stories about what drives us apart, but also about what we have in common. I think we all have narratives to tell. Now, we are our own stories, and we do not exist apart from words, apart from representation.
Sure.
So I think the humanities teach us that communication is the key.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Now, you've been a member of our community for more than 20 years now, and as a scholar, you've been deeply committed to the humanities through your work focused on European literary and cultural relations. What are some of the different topics and questions you've explored in these areas of your scholarship?
Thank you for your question. Yes, I've been at Georgetown for a long time and I've explored a lot in those 2 decades, over 2 decades. So I like to put literature at the center of an interdisciplinary network. I like to explore how texts not only reflect, but also shape concepts and issues that traverse boundaries between discursive fields. And with this approach, I have concentrated, as you said, on the circulation of ideas within and across Europe in the modern and contemporary period. For instance, I have explored the evolution of the notion of culture, showing how it is inseparable from questions of power and how it relies upon the construction of difference and of otherness, both inside and outside of Europe. And for investigations of this kind, I have blended all sorts of disciplines: aesthetics and anthropology, politics, medicine, travel writing, and fiction, to name a few. But across the years, I have also, with my research, traced a kind of trajectory that from Europe as, let's say, the context for the analysis of particular texts, be they literary, theoretical, or cultural, has led me to take Europe itself as my main object of study. And so using literature as a kind of investigative tool, I am building a cultural history of Europeanness, what has meant in the past and what does it mean now to talk about a European identity, for instance. How do writers and intellectuals envision this supranational design? It was an idea and then it became an institutional project. And as I explore let's say, the implications and the challenges of a European identity, I touch upon issues that are not unique to the old continent. And here, as you may imagine, my comparative spirit lights up, to see that Europe becomes an incubator for crucial topics that are pertinent also to other areas of the world. For instance, one cannot separate a discussion about Europe from its complex relationships with the Mediterranean basin. This is probably one of the most obvious, but also broader implications about nationness, regionalism, the tension between the local and the global dimension, or the role of borders and the phenomenon of migration. These are all topics that I explored and I'm exploring within Europe, but also beyond. Or again, multilingualism, multiculturalism, and cosmopolitanism, which is the topic of my forthcoming book. And ultimately also the idea of translation not just as a mechanical transposition of language, but as a mode of being and of belonging. So these are all issues that, thanks to my investigation of Europe, I've managed to expand and deepen, and that still give me a lot of satisfaction and enthusiasm in my research and in my teaching.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit more about that comparative spirit. In addition to your role as director of the Georgetown Humanities Initiative, you also serve on the core committee for the comparative literature program in the Georgetown College. You previously served as program director. Can you talk a little bit about your involvement in the work of this program?
Oh, with pleasure. I've been involved in the comparative literature program since my arrival at Georgetown, and it has been a great joy to contribute to its visibility. I have always seen the comparative literature program as, believe me, the perfect embodiment of the international mission of Georgetown and of its commitment to foreign languages and intercultural exchanges. It's really the quintessence of what we do in the FLL and beyond in the humanities. The students who choose to major in comparative literature excel in those domains because all their courses in their primary and secondary literatures are in the original languages. So these students are wonderful testimonials of what we as a university stand for. And across the years, we, meaning myself and the colleagues who are part of the core, have redesigned the complete curriculum, standardizing the methodology core course, and creating an additional comparative literature designated course that essentially can grant students more exposure to issues and topics from a comparative perspective, allowing them to appreciate the deep implications of analogies and differences. It's not enough to say something is different from something else, but what do we do with those differences and analogies? And precisely to reflect more faithfully the worldwide reach of comparative studies by now at Georgetown and beyond, the name of the program has been recently changed to Global and Comparative Literature, and I think wisely so. It's also very nice to see that our introductory comparative literature course now is also one of the core requirements of the FLL Eggers Scholars Program curriculum. And this is further evidence of its central role in the formation of students with a strong multilingual and multicultural background. And I have to say, it's always a great source of satisfaction to see comparative literature majors continue their studies in the discipline for graduate school. We have students going to Oxford, to Harvard, and to Johns Hopkins, but also beyond the academic path. It's adamant that formation in comparative literature can take to outstanding careers. We have students who have become important lawyers, who have started a career in medicine and in international affairs. I also wish to add something that is very dear to me in terms of comparative literature. You may remember that in 2019, comparative literature at Georgetown gained remarkable visibility because we hosted on our campus, in those blissful pre-COVID moments when we could use a campus, the annual conference of the American Comparative Literature Association, which brought together over 2,000 scholars in the humanities from all over the world. And this conference, to go back to the importance of undergraduate student research, also offered an excellent opportunity to showcase undergraduate research in the humanities, because I organized a 3-day seminar entirely devoted to undergraduate comparative scholarship. There were applications from all over the world, and we shortlisted 12 students, among them Georgetown students. So we were very happy. This year, the conference will be virtual, but still we have a similar opportunity. There will be 2 undergraduate seminars. And again, I'm pleased to report that once again, we have 2 Georgetown students who have been selected. So, there are a lot of ways in which Complete can be meaningful to the humanities and the campus at large.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. As we bring our conversation to a close, is there a message that you'd like to share with our entire community?
Sure. Let me say this, since we've talked about the humanities, about comparative literature, where, again, we bridge gaps across disciplines, across languages. Let me say this. So just as we need to preserve biodiversity in nature, I think that innovation and creativity in education, in research, and in life come precisely from a plurality of visions and occupations that coexist and interact. So it's not a matter of pitting the sciences against the humanities. Complementarity is the key. And so diversity of thought, diversity of tools is crucial, and it is even profitable on multiple fronts. I think that the humanities provide the meta toolkit, so the language and the holistic narrative that can allow us to connect different disciplines, to make them speak to one another and to work together. So we have a lot to do, but a lot of potential, and I hope we will continue on along this very exciting track.
I can't thank you enough for joining us for this weekday conversation. We're deeply grateful to you for your leadership in our university community and for all that you've contributed over these past 2 decades of your extraordinary service. So thank you for being with us. And I look forward to being with all of you again soon. Take care of yourselves and take care of everyone around you.
Thank you.
For every Hoya, everywhere.
And thank you for what you're doing for us. Take care.